o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. My name is Kevin Haggerty. I'm chair of the BPAC. First order of business is, well, call to order, which I just did. Okay. Approval of the meeting minutes from the June 1st, 2022 meeting. Now, I didn't get a copy. Did any of you get a copy?
I did not get a copy, and they're not up
Okay.
online on the website either.
So let me suggest that we postpone this item until our next meeting.
Okay.
And Rafat, if you can see if you can locate the minutes and make them available to us before the next meeting, along with this meeting's minutes, that'd be great. Next item is public comment. Does anyone, public comment is limited. Unfortunately, because Lauren is no longer, Lauren's left the city for another opportunity. There's going to have to be some adjustments in terms of the regular announcements and so forth. But I will say that public comment is available to anyone who wants to comment. These will be on items not on the agenda tonight, and we ask that you limit your comments to 2 minutes. So I see Warren Wells has a comment. Go ahead. Rafat, you might have to let him talk.
I did.
Okay. Warren, you there?
Yep. Yeah. Sorry. Just pulling my notes here. Hi, everybody. My name is Warren Wells, Policy and Planning Director for the Marin County Bicycle Coalition. I just want to share a couple items with the group. First, I just come back from paternity leave, so if I owe anyone an email here, I hope you'll forgive me. And I'm working my way through the backlog right now. Second, the Marin County Bicycle Coalition has just hired a new full-time staff member to assist with our local advocacy team efforts and our new e-bike smart Marin program, which is aimed at doing education and outreach around electric bikes. Obviously, we know there's a huge opportunity with e-bikes for improving mobility for people of all ages and moving groceries and other things. But there are we have to be careful around people riding too fast. Some of you may have heard there was a fatal crash involving a pedestrian and someone on an electric bicycle. We don't know what type, whether it was permitted on the path or not, a few weeks ago in just north of Sausalito. So our new staff member her name is Zoe Rekas. She's got a great background in e-bikes and in group facilitation, and so expect to see some emails from her. Last, I just want to share. Sorry, I'm just kind of scrambling to pull the piece up. I just want to share a couple items from legislation that has passed in this session of the legislature that are interested, that might be interested in this group. First is the AB 2147. This is the Freedom to Walk Bill Act, and what this does is it's essentially decriminalizes jaywalking or crossing mid-block between signalized intersections, as long as the street is clear. Another bill, SB 932, and this bill requires cities, I think by 2025, to ensure that the bike plans in their general plans, so that they have enacted a safe systems approach in their general plans and have a plan for completion of their bike plans within 25 years. And lastly, I'm sure my time's almost up. The AB 1909, the Bicycle Omnibus bill, this does a few things, including requiring drivers on multi-lane roads to change lanes when passing a bicyclist instead of just that 3 feet of clearance. This is kind of as if a police officer were pulled over to the side of the road. If you have space, drivers should move to that adjacent lane before passing bicyclists. Yep, that's all I have today. Thanks so much, and looking forward to the meeting.
Thank you, Warren. Our next speaker is Lori. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if we could please see the person who's speaking. Is that possible?
Does one of the city people want to comment on it? I think that this is a webinar, so normally it's set up as a webinar by the city. So normally we have not been able to see the attendees.
Yeah, but I can see you when you speak.
Well, but we're a panelist.
But no, but you're tiny.
May
Not taking over the screen.
okay, I can promote you to a panelist, Lori, and if you share your screen, you'll be able to be seen.
No, I want to see who's talking. I don't need to be seen, but thank you.
Oh, I see. All right, no problem.
So Lori, clarification, you should be able to see the panelists. Can you do that? The panelists is the BPAC members and the city staff. Lori, can you see us?
Okay,
like she's-
Lori is on mute.
Sorry. Yes, I can see whatever Rafat did made it so I can see you guys. Thank you, Rafat.
Okay,
All right.
thanks for your comment. Amy Lykover?
Allowed to talk. Okay.
Amy, go ahead. You're muted.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. The first thing, a couple of safety issues since bills were mentioned that have to do with bicycle safety. If there's any way through either legislation or working with the state, one of the most deadly things for a bicycle rider, as you know, is car doors opening up, and that's why they have the 3-foot required space. However, I think that automobile drivers, need to learn how to get out of cars. And you're probably aware of the Dutch method that is taught to all Dutch drivers, which is as they open their car door, they have to look over their left shoulder. It's part of their training. So I thought I'd mention that. That's the first thing. I don't know if there's anything that can be done at your level, but it certainly would make a difference. I almost got knocked over and I was pretty far away from a car. The second is, and I've mentioned this to you, Kevin, before, just one-on-one, is there aren't enough bike racks in San Rafael. I may go regularly to 5 different spots in the city and none of them have a bike rack on that block. And I've mentioned this to city staff and then nothing happened. I mentioned it to different people with BPAC and nothing happened. So I just would like to point it out. If you're interested in having people do their errands downtown, there should be a bike rack on absolutely every block. Thanks.
Thank you, Amy. Warren, do you have another comment?
No, sorry, I didn't take my hand down. My apologies.
Okay, I believe that's all the public comments that I see. With that, we'll move on to the next item, which is the ad hoc committee updates. Philip, do you want to give us an update on the North-South Greenway?
Sure. Am I off mute? Yes. Great. A handful of nice updates about the North-South Greenway, starting with 2 overall general studies that are happening. TAM has budgeted funds for a study that will formally catalog the remaining gaps in the North-South Greenway. That's actually never been done up to now, so that's exciting. And then MTC, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, is doing a Bay Trail gap closure plan, which is another study they're doing to look at the gaps all along the San Francisco Bay Trail and develop a prioritization methodology for which ones that should be completed first. And then some of those are going to advance to 60% design. This is important to us in the North-South Greenway because there are a handful of those Bay Trail segments that are also part of the North-South Greenway, including some of the gaps that are in Sausalito, the spot north of Las Colinas Marsh between Hamilton Station and Hamilton Drive. Okay, so for the path itself, news along that, starting towards the south, like I often do at the Golden Gate Bridge. There was a report released in August that showed that 2 different intersections on Alexander Avenue, which is the road coming right off the Golden Gate Bridge and on the way towards Sausalito, are home to the 2 most dangerous intersections in Marin for bicyclists. It has been brought to the district's attention. So far, nothing has happened with that, but that has sort of been big news down there. In Sausalito, TAM advanced the city of Sausalito's application for a One Bay Area grant fund for the segment of the Greenway that goes along Bridgeway between Richard Street and Princess Street. If the application is successful, the funds will be used for planning and design for a 2-way Class 4 cycle track along Bridgeway. Moving in up further north into Corte Madera, the new bridge over Corte Madera Creek is open. The next short phase of the project between the southern landing of the bridge and the US 101 pedestrian overcrossing, which is about an 800-foot segment, is going to go to construction next spring and should be done next summer. That will be extension of the Class 1 path along the west side of Redwood Highway. For us in San Rafael, the SMART board heard the final feasibility study of the Puerto Suelo Hill, the San Rafael connection, that was brought to the SMART board, but it is not an action item on SMARTs yet. In Novato, SMART has, I'm sorry, one second. What is it, darling? I think we're gonna have to come back to me. I'm sorry.
Okay, why don't we come back to you in a minute? In the meanwhile, what I think we'll do is go through all the ad hoc committee updates, and then I'll ask the public if they have any comments. Kate, do you have any updates on the Park and Rec master plan?
I don't know if April wants to go first because she's been attending those meetings, but there was a Parks and Rec master plan meeting at the beginning of September. The consultant has completed their review of plans, like the city's general plan and many other documents. They've completed their community outreach, which they reached out to not only organizations like neighborhood associations, arts groups, and staff, and other groups, as well as doing an online survey and then a few public meetings. And they had tallied a bunch of information from that. They did an inventory of all of the parks and parks facilities and did an assessment of what state of maintenance each of the different pieces of equipment and infrastructure that were in the parks. And I think they're doing a prioritization now. As the BPAC representative to the Parks and Recreation Master Planning process, I was hoping that there would be more opportunity to discuss access and to look at the parks and the infrastructure, kind of the public space at a higher level as well, and how there is a network of parks, and how do we access those parks as origins and destinations, getting to and from things. That level of assessment and analysis didn't happen. And I think going forward, I would take that experience or recommend to the next people who participate on behalf of BPAC to think on a higher level of how the public realm or our public space, how it's safe, how it's comfortable, how we enjoy it, and how it all works together, and then contribute a BPAC perspective on that. So, but April might have some other information to contribute.
Before April speaks, I just want to welcome April. April Miller is the city's new public works director. Certainly since our last meeting, April's presented to us before. and we certainly welcome her to this meeting and future meetings. Thank you, April.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin and Kate. Yeah, just I guess one update that is a very good perspective, Kate, you had about, the access to some of the facilities and parks. I think that would actually probably be a good topic to bring up when we do the bike and ped master plan update, and maybe specifically looking at how we access some of those parks and facilities. Because I think that's the conduit between them. The parks was really just limited to the actual space there, but getting to it, we couldn't expand that scope of work, but I think it would be great to be in the part of the update for bike and ped master plan. The city with the consultant has come up with a prioritization criteria and began initial rankings of all of the projects that have come out of the master plan process. So we just did that last week, and we still have, and then we're going to do facilities next. So the idea is to have that initial ranked list and bring it back to the steering committee. And then there's going to be a working group session with the Park and Rec Commission and the city council. We're hoping for that to be the 1st December council meeting. So I think that's the 5th of December. And so that'll be open to the public. Well, I guess so are all the steering committees. If anybody wants to attend and listen, they can also attend and listen to those. So that's the next step. We just kind of went through the initial task of looking through hundreds of projects on each of the parks that were identified.
Kate, I'm wondering if, I too appreciate your comments. I'm wondering if you'd be willing to put your comments down in writing so we could distribute to the board members, 3 of us, you, myself, and
DJ.
DJ, our terms are going to expire, but I think your comments would be most helpful to the
Okay.
balance of the pack. And if you could write them down, and maybe we'll share them, we'll get them to Rafat, and then he can share them with the rest of that would be most helpful.
Okay, yeah, happy to do
So
it.
the third item is the Vision Zero update.
Sorry, one other.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back to Phil. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I'll get to mine, but also in conjunction with the Parks and Rec Master Plan, it's my understanding that there's going to be like an open space and trails planning that's going to happen next year, which I think is also something that BPAC should be involved in, because a lot of those off-road trails especially are accessed by mountain bikers who need to ride on city streets to get there. So that is certainly something I think that we should be involved in. I would raise my hand for that too, among others. But yes. If I can go back, so sorry, I got disrupted. My 3-year-old fell, and so her hand needed a kiss. But now that has been sorted out, I was saying we had just finished the talking about the Corte Madera section. The next section of the North-South Greenway, as you're going further up, is that in Novato from Hannah Ranch Road to Vintage Way South. SMART has applied for construction funding to close the gap between the Vintage Oaks Shopping Center and that dead-end pathway that's just north of 37. And that funding request was prioritized by TAM staff and has been forwarded to MTC for review and potential approval. Moving just a little bit forward onto Roland Boulevard behind Vintage Oaks and Costco there. The project to complete the Greenway behind Costco and the shopping center has started. I drove there the other day and I saw that. It should be complete by the end of the year. It's adding an additional ½ mile to the North-South Greenway behind Costco. The project is reducing Roland Way from 2 travel lanes in each direction to 1, and it's installing a separated 2-way bike path. And it looks like there's lots of progress on that so far. And that is the end of my review. Sorry about the interruption in the middle.
No problem. Thanks again. Kate, did you have a question?
I had a question for Phil.
Yeah.
Phil, I was wondering about SMART's applying for funding for the extension from the South Vintage Way to Hannah Ranch. And is that part of the multi-use path that they're supposed to be funding through Measure Q, or is that something different? And where is that?
I think it was
where did they apply for the funding?
I think they applied for the One Bay Area grant for that funding.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Uh,
let's,
Mr. Chair, if I may have committee member Philip Mooney and Kate Powers, if you have any transcripts of what you reported from the ad hoc committees, that will help me with the minutes. I couldn't keep up with you, Philip.
Yeah, I have it all written down, so I'll just email it to
Okay,
you right away.
good. That'd be great. That'd be great.
so the last ad hoc committee update involves the Vision Zero committee or the Vision Zero update. The Vision Zero committee comprised of myself, Kate, and Barry met several times since the last meeting. If you recall, the last meeting had, I think it was the August meeting, had on the agenda an item regarding Vision Zero. Because we didn't meet, we had an opportunity, the three of us as a subcommittee had an opportunity to sit down and have a brief meeting with April and Rafat regarding an update for the city's plans for the Vision Zero. And so I'd like to, as a starting point here, would like to ask either Rafat or April to comment on where the city is on implementing or a Vision Zero plan.
I'll be happy to jump in. First of all, we really appreciate all of the effort that was done by the subcommittee members in terms of research and conversation over the past, I would say, at least 6 to 8 months. We've had some good discussions, and we had presentations to the BPAC from experts in Vision Zero, and the city definitely believes that the Vision Zero policy is needed and will be implemented. The timing of the implementation and the starting of the plan is kind of challenged with on multiple levels. Number one is the staff availability and the resources availability to do a very focused Vision Zero is not available right now. The second is the TAM initiative, and with all of the transportation funding applications, they are trying to start a county-wide Vision Zero plan that will, that our plan will be, the City of San Rafael plan will be based on. And we're waiting for that regional effort. And we were asked by our, leaders to wait and await the outcome of that effort with TAM. And it could be a TAM could start either a federal program or to fund an initiative to get the region-wide Vision Zero going. And we will definitely follow up with either a local plan, or depending on how far they take their Vision Zero plan, we might need to do very little or a lot, depending on what they end up with. That's about it. I mean, April, do you have anything else to add? Okay.
Kate, do you have, as a committee member, do you have any comment or questions?
No, I'm disappointed that I'm terming out and not going to be a committee member working on this. But I will be attending meetings where Vision Zero is on the agenda and moving from an advisory committee role to an advocate role.
As will I. Any public comment on the ad hoc committee updates? Seeing none.
I see Jay Server.
Okay.
Who's allowed to talk.
Okay, Jay Server.
It's Jean Severinghouse.
Jean,
So
I'm sorry.
it doesn't allow me to change my
Yeah.
name the way the city sets it up. Hi, I really appreciated that, a lot of great dense information, and from all three of you. And I'm wanting to know about the Bay Trail gap study and the TAM study of north-south Greenway gaps. There's a really important gap that I'm not sure I heard mentioned just south of San Rafael, which is when you come off the new bridge across Corona Creek going south, the only way to go south for people of all ages and abilities not to have to cross uncontrolled freeway ramps is to get over to the right of way and down the smart right of way to Warnham. And that's been studied for 20 years. And somehow we need to make sure that stays on the radar and not think of the gap being closed by going class 1 down to the pedestrian overcrossing. It's still a really critical gap there. So somehow, can we have a meeting and like talk about that piece or something like that? That's just an important piece that I don't want to fall off the planet. Thanks.
Philip, any comments on that?
I think that's a good comment. You know, the main problem is it's not in the city of San Rafael. So for the San Rafael BPAC, I think that's probably something you should talk to Warren about, because I think I know certainly on the website for that project, they have grand plans for that connection.
Right. It's just, you know, you're doing this wonderful service of talking about the whole Greenway, and to have to miss this hugely important gap in Corte Madera. It's both Bay Trail and really critical to anybody from San Rafael who's like a family member needing to go south. It's really,
Yeah, I agree. I actually just went to explore it maybe 2 weeks ago because I was curious. So I just
great.
did about,
Thank you.
rode back there to go look at that. Hopefully that is something that would be addressed in some of these North-South Greenway master plans, the 2 planning sessions that are happening, including the one on the Bay Trail. Yeah, I don't know the best way to approach that, but I don't think San Rafael BPAC's the best way to approach that. I'm certainly interested in being involved somehow, but
Thank you. Great.
not through this committee.
Thank you, Jane. I don't see any, Rafat, do you see any other comments from the public?
I don't see any hands.
Okay. Why don't we go
Wait,
ahead?
hold on. I think there is an attendee. Warren Wells would like to speak.
Okay. Warren?
Thank you. This is Warren Wells, Marin County Bicycle Coalition. I just wanted to thank Rafat and staff, and of course all the members of the BPAC for the work on the Vision Zero update, or the Vision Zero committee, and for willingness to hear presentations from the Vision Zero network, and the open-mindedness to going forward with this. And I know there's, as Rafat mentioned, there's some processes still has to go forward with coordinating with the county's effort, but just wanted to express my appreciation on behalf of the Bicycle Coalition for the willingness to move forward with, I think, a necessary policy goal of reducing to zero the number of serious and fatal injuries on our city streets. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you, Warren. Seeing no other public comments, let's go on to item number 5, which is the 2nd Street, 4th Street project report. Rafat, are you doing this?
I'd like to introduce Joanna Walk. She's the senior civil engineer in the Capital Investment Improvement Program. And Joanna joined the city, let's say, a couple months ago, and she's working on many improvement projects in the Capital Investment Program. And Joanna, you have the floor, and you can share your screen. And you can unmute yourself.
Great, thank you, Rafat. I don't seem to have, oh, there we go.
Can you, let me stop sharing, and so you can share your screen. Maybe that's not working.
Yes, thank you. Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Great, thank you, everyone. Good evening, and as Rafat introduced, I'm Joanna, and I'm very excited to be here tonight to present our updates on the 2nd and 4th Street intersection project. Although we're still pretty early on in our design phase, we wanted to keep you involved and informed of our progress. As you can see from the existing conditions map, the 2nd and 4th Street intersection is very complex and presents challenges to all users. Pedestrians need to cross 4 to 5 crosswalks, denoted in red, in order to get from the south side of 2nd Street to 4th Street and vice versa. Shared lane markings or sharrows circled in green are installed in a few locations to indicate roads that are shared with bicycles. There are also a lot of vehicular paths movements at this intersection. But fortunately, funding was available for the design phase of this project so that plans can be developed to improve the pedestrian crossing experience, promote bicycle connectivity, maintain local transit navigability, and simplify the vehicular movements. After going through several design concepts, here's the latest preliminary plan that was developed by the city's design consultant. This concept brings the crosswalks closer together and shortens the crossing distance for pedestrians and creates a more direct and enhanced bicycle connection between 4th Street and the bike route south of 2nd Street. However, as mentioned earlier, this is a very complex intersection and there are a lot of things to consider. The design team is still evaluating the traffic patterns for signal modification and circulation and evaluating routes for local transit and emergency vehicles. The plans will likely change as we continue to refine the design. This brings us to our anticipated project timeline. The design team is targeting to have updated design plans by December of this year, and MTC will make the decision on the OBAG 3 grant funding by January of 2023, which will determine whether or not the city will have sufficient funds to construct this project. If funds are granted, we plan on coming back to BPAC with a design update in January or February of 2023, and then conduct public outreach sometime in March, prepare final documents for the project by summer of 2023, and hopefully start construction fall of next year. Just as a reminder, there is no action required for this item tonight as we are providing this update for informational purposes only. So I would like to thank everyone for your time and open up for questions and comments.
So do any BPAC members have questions? No?
I'd like,
Okay.
I just got a quick glimpse at that. And can I study the design again?
Sure, let me go back. Here's our latest design.
And are you looking for comments on the design from members right now or just questions on the design?
I think anything that might come to mind would be greatly appreciated, but just know that this is very high level and there's still a lot of things that we're evaluating so that we can finalize the design.
Are you able, I mean, so my, just a couple of questions. Could you explain the route that a bicycle would take as it's moving west along the new 2nd Street path and towards the frontage road and Greenfield Avenue towards San Anselmo?
Sure, so I think based on this design here, bicyclists coming down 4th Street would come here, and then there's still an existing bicycle lane in this location here. And then they would use this green crossing to get across 2nd Street and then onto West End and then down to the west here.
And are there, I'm looking at the turns, or is there a right turn that's allowed there or no right turns from that intersection?
Right turn from.
If you're going west on 4th Street, and then going straight south, can you turn right onto the Miracle Mile? Or do you need to, you keep going straight?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the things that we're still working through. I think something we've considered currently, there's like a slip lane that allows you to go west this way, and then it merges onto 2nd Avenue. Or we're considering potentially putting in a right turn here as well, so that you can also gain access to 2nd in the westbound direction at the intersection.
Okay, I mean, I would have concerns about turning right into the bike lane of traffic, certainly right there. Also, as you're talking about going down, what about if a cyclist were coming down 2nd Street the whole way from our new, the beautiful bike path that's getting built, and then it will need some sort of connection if it's just coming all the way down 2nd? Where would a bike route go there?
Right, so Rafat and April, feel free to chime in, but I think as part of our 3rd Street project, there'll be like a cycle track along the south side of 2nd Street, and it'll run in both directions.
And I'm just curious what it does where it hits Marquard, Because that was a gap when it was initially designed that we had talked about. And so this would fill that little gap, that temporary solution.
Right, so that's kind of part of the design that we're still trying to work out. But currently, the way it's shown, anyone going westbound will be able to continue to the west. And it turns into a Sharrow, or they would use this crosswalk so that they can get onto 4th in the eastbound direction.
And if I may jump in, I mean, if we go to the back to the schedule, we are in design options right now. I don't think all of the movements have been fully vetted, and there needs to be some outreach. There's public outreach in March 23. It's all contingent on the OVAC funding of the intersection, and there's definitely another VPAC around in January or February 23 that we would definitely revisit all aspects, you know, emergency access, transit stops, pedestrian bicycle movements, and we would vet everything else. And we'll come back to you with diagrams as to what those movements would mean. And there's some traffic control devices that needs to be figured out at this intersection and at Marquardt intersection that we, you know, there's always been a missing link in this that we will get to eventually.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's good to know. I'd want to look at it some more, but that current design, I think I'd have some concerns for bike travel. So
I have a question.
I'll let other
And-
people have questions.
Yeah, can we look at the map again? Because I had a question about it. Okay, so my question is, you know, Phil was taking you west, so now I'm going to take you east. So you'd come up Greenfield and then you have green here that you would cross because that's for the bike trail, but then you'd also have to cross going east across the traffic to get into the right lane on 4th Street, but you didn't mark anything there with that crosswalk showing that that would be the bike access. So I was just curious if you thought, you know, it's one thing when you're coming west because you're already in that right lane and you swing down, but you're coming back. If you're coming back to Greenfield and you're coming up the bike lane, then you got to cross over the traffic this way, correct?
Yeah.
To get onto 4th, or how do you get onto 4th if you're going east?
So if you're going eastbound when you're trying to get into 4th, you would have to use this like crossing here so that you can get across to the green bicycle crossing. I think there's definitely going to be some like conflict potentially as you're passing through the bicyclists going westbound. But again, this is something we're still working to kind of refine as part of our design development.
Yeah, and then when you're going to have to continue that, I'm just was surprised it wasn't a green. You're going to have to continue going west parallel to that bike path right there, correct?
Yeah, so I think this is just something that's very like high level in terms of preliminary concept. So we'll definitely take your comments into consideration as we further develop our design.
Thank you.
April, did you have comment? No. Rafat, I'm wondering if on the schedule, you had suggested bringing some information back to the BPAC. I don't believe the BPAC meets in January. I think they meet in February. It's every 2 months.
In
I'm
February.
wondering, given that situation and the fact that we're scheduled to meet in December, would it make sense to bring this back to the BPAC to allow them further opportunity to comment in December?
I think, you know, first of all, I think Joanna probably mentioned earlier that we're coming in almost prematurely to the VPAC right now. Okay, I just want to make that clear that, you know, we're very early in the process, and our intent is to engage VPAC at every available opportunity as early as possible, and that will remain our policy. So if we get a notice of funding, the sooner we get a notice of funding, then the sooner we'd bring this to VPAC. If it's you know, if we meet in December and February, if we can do it in December, we'll do it in December. If not, it's going to have to wait until February. And we can always, I mean, if there's a pressing need and the schedule requires that we do schedule a special meeting, we'll be happy to do so as well.
Okay, are there any, before we go to public comment, any other comments from BPAC members? If not, let's go to public comment. I believe there are 4
And
people.
I'm gonna start with S, allowed to talk.
Hello, hello. Do you hear me? Hi, this is Sunny Lee.
Hi,
Um,
Sunny.
So I'm sorry that I'm cooking dinner. Just kind of listening, tuning in. I just got a glimpse of the map. Joanne, thank you for the presenting, and thank you, Director April. Congratulations for your new role. We are rooting for you. It's something that I would like to look at it more in detail because last time I looked at the 2nd Street, 3rd Street merging to the Miracle Mile. There's a lot of options discussed, and I think this is the first time I'm seeing actually 4th Street coming down as a T to 2nd Street and making a right turn. And I saw there's another kind of a thin path on north side of the 2nd Street, Miracle Mile side. I don't know what that road is. I don't know, it's a bike path. I believe you guys are putting the bike path on 3rd Street all the way from the freeway.
Joanna, can you pull up the map, please, so we can?
So I could see that there's a little tiny little angle, the crosswalk. I can't even see in my computer. The number next to the bicycle and pedestrian crossings. Wow. Oh, that's so to the right, your arrows there, to the right, above, there is a diagonal crosswalk. What is that path is crossing to? Is a road or a bicycle only?
This is intended for pedestrian crossing.
Crossing for the vehicle road?
Yes, so then there's going to be a like a lane that slips through 4th and then merges over to 2nd Street.
Oh, okay. So there's actually vehicles who are going westbound could stay on that lane, kind of veer to the right to continue to the westbound.
Correct.
But the cars turning onto 2nd Street going east, they will meet on the T intersection.
Based on this design, yes, but I think we're still kind of studying the different movements. So that could potentially change as we further develop the design.
Okay. So the green crosswalk, green colored crosswalk for the bicyclist is for the mainly bicyclist coming from 4th Street to go to 2nd Street?
Correct.
Okay, so they are going not the major, are they major eastbound, westbound bike paths on the south side of the 2nd Street?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe why I thought that there is a bike path near the Marin, no, near the Lindaro and A Avenue, A Street is, my 1st Street is actually north side of the 3rd Street. Am I remembering it incorrectly, maybe?
Yeah, so the bike, I'll answer. So the bike network, one of the major connections is 4th Street for east-west, and then also on 2nd Street. So we finished the connection for the 3rd Street project that goes all the way down to Miramar, and then it connects on 1st.
Okay.
And there's some missing links between that point to get all the way over to the Francisco West path. But this is just fixing the connection between, you can either take 4th or you could take 2nd Street to go east-west. And so we're trying to eliminate that confusion.
Okay, thank you, April.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why I thought the bike path will be on the 3rd Street. That's what I thought at one point. Maybe I'm remembering old presentation. I'm remembering it.
Sunny, thank you. We've got quite a few more comments.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
So thank you.
That's it. Okay.
Rafat?
I'll go to Matthew Hartzell next.
Hello, thank you, Rafat, and thank you, Joanna. This is Matt Hartzell of WTB TAM. And our group is quite familiar with this project. We've actually written 2 separate letters of support to go along with the city's grant applications for this project. I believe one was to OBAG and the other was to the Safe Streets and Roads for All federal IIJA grant program. If that's correct, maybe Rafat could confirm.
Yes, yes.
I was a little confused when I saw this drawing up on the screen because it doesn't very clearly show the class 4 bikeway on the south side of 2nd Street. As I kind of took a closer look, I realized it actually is there. It's just very hard to see because it's all grayed out. Lauren Davini, before she left the city, she shared with us another drawing of this same intersection, and that drawing showed the class 4 bikeway much more clearly along with color. And I just emailed Joanna right now that drawing I'm talking about, and I think it would be, if it's possible, if she could pull that image up on the screen and show it to the BPAC, I think it would be very useful because it shows the bike infrastructure through this intersection a lot more clearly than this image does. So that's my only comment. Thanks.
I quickly respond to that, Kevin. So I guess I think what we're trying to show here is what the proposed improvements are with this project. The existing bike path is going to already be installed when these come in. So we did not show those as green going east-west, but the intent is we're going to have a website and we can show like all of the, the proposed conditions, and we'll just show one is being built and one is not being built yet. But the intent for this was just to show what the new stuff is, even though currently there isn't, the 2nd Street part isn't in yet, but it will be by the time this project is in. So we can update it, but the configuration that you emailed us was different than this slightly. So I think it'd be confusing to show the configuration that you emailed us, but we'll update it to our website.
So Rafat, we'll continue with the public comments, and then I know Phil has a comment, so
All right.
let's do the public comments.
Next is Warren Wells.
Hi, this is Warren Wells, Policy and Plan Director with the Marin County Bicycle Coalition. Just saying, really happy to see this project moving forward. Again, I realize it's early design, but things are looking good so far, and just wanted to back up some of the comments from Phil and Ann about making sure that we are considering that basically kind of the movement that people take today from eastbound Greenfield to eastbound 4th Street. And, if there is going to be a 2-stage movement, which would make sense, crossing 2nd Street and then crossing that entry, the north leg there at 4th Street, that bicyclists are given a space to kind of refuge on that northwest corner before they cross the north leg of 4th Street. But all in all, great work. Really looking forward to seeing this project and the 2nd Street project moving forward. Thanks a ton.
Thank you, Warren.
Next is Trevor Martin.
Hey there. I'm the owner of Pond Farm Brewing, along with my wife. You can see our building up in the kind of the top middle. We're right along 4th Street. Yeah, and we get a fair amount. So this is very much front and center for us. Overall, I'm really excited to see this progress, this happening, and at least the concepts as they're laid out. I would advocate that if there is consideration for, it sounded like maybe it's not decided whether 4th will be allowed to right turn from the T or not, or whether westbound traffic will be pushed through as it currently is. If it does continue to proceed as it's doing over that, what I hope will be a speed hump, I would also advocate for maybe a stop sign, just to really slow things down. I know there's like a pedestrian crosswalk right now and a light, and we've seen a number of close calls because cars are going sometimes 40-45 miles an hour on that stretch, because there's just unimpeded, it's basically a freeway on ramp as it is. And so slowing that down would be great. And we also get a good amount of bike traffic. We have a lot of bike parking indoors. And so I know that this will make things just a lot easier for those people instead of doing all the hopscotching that they're doing currently. So I guess keeping that in mind, that any eastbound traffic going east, like we've kind of talked about, if you're trying to get over to our place and you do come down Greenfield and then up onto the island, if that can all be kind of wide enough to accommodate a pedestrian and someone who's going to walk their bike up onto the sidewalk to bring it inside our business, that would just kind of reduce congestion kind of on that island where all three of those crosswalks are coming in together. As long as that's not too tight of a crossing area, it seems like it'd be pretty easy to get enough space for everyone in there. But yeah, just excited to see it moving forward.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thanks.
Next.
Next is Lori. Jay,
That's Jean Severinghouse, sorry.
I see.
Hi, Rafat.
Hi.
So I'm looking at the grant application, which I was pretty excited about and glad to see moving forward. And the maps that are shown on page 10 of 22 of that grant application, they actually show a bicycle crosswalk and a pedestrian crosswalk crossing second on both sides of 4th Street. And that to me looked much more comfortable and inviting. So was that actually dismissed from the plan in the current plan? So maybe just a request that we go back and discuss the plans that were shown in the OBAG grant when when it comes back again. Thanks.
Any comment from staff on that?
I can just comment that having two crosswalks will have one of the crosswalk contend with a left turn movement or a dual left turn movement, which is still on the drawing board. And that's why this alteration or this option does not show another crosswalk crossing 2nd Street, if I understood the question right. If I may, committee member Mooney has his hand raised. Do you want to say something or?
Yeah, I wanted to say something. Although Trevor, from Pond Farm who spoke, I think said some of what I was thinking also. As I continue to look at this, Trevor noted, that it's often like a freeway on-ramp if you're going westbound on 4th Street and continuing to 2nd Street and across that little crosswalk. And he mentioned in passing, he's like, I hope that's a speed bump or a race, or I think that's the language he said. And I think that's a great idea. I would much prefer an intersection like that. I see a movement there as being fairly difficult. A cyclist coming down 4th Street to the west, wanting to go to the bike path on Greenfield. I see that as a difficult movement in the way that they're going to have to cross that, quote, freeway on-ramp. I think a better solution would be to, I see two, as this looks, it looks to me like two left-hand turn lanes. I'd rather have a left-hand turn lane and a left-hand turn lane and a right-hand turn lane rather than the two lefts, and then something to discourage people from, sort of cut off that freeway on-ramp. That's free space. We can make a park there in front of Trevor's business or a more inviting public space out there. I think would move the traffic more easily and alleviate his worries about the close calls crossing the street. So I thought that was a pretty good comment. That's what I was.
I appreciate the comment, and we definitely need to calm down the traffic proceeding on 4th Street. What I just heard suggested would run into an issue with the transit movement, with the big bus movement, making a right turn from that movement. As you can tell, it's pretty tight because it's a difficult, complex movement for a big vehicle to make. But we're definitely open to calming down that straight through westbound traffic.
And for, I see, what do I see? Like 8 parking spots there, so if you remove one of those to give a bus space to turn, and somehow protect that very well for pedestrians on a refuge island too. I think those are all things that should be considered.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just seeing this for the first time, so I think I'm going to need a long time to study it as we go forward. So.
Rafat, let's go back to public comment.
We can go back to the attendees. I think we still have Dave Rhodes that has a hand raised.
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hear you.
Thank you. All right. Awesome. Thanks so much for prioritizing this project and working on the application. I hadn't heard about this project until about a year ago when early plans were shown to the BPAC. And, I think it's a really, really important project for the city to do. The current intersection is extremely dangerous for both bicycle riders and pedestrians alike. And I really appreciate the early design effort here, though it is different, quite a bit different from what was presented before. Especially the fact that this design proposal includes this slip lane that Trevor mentioned, where drivers accelerate very quickly, 40-45 miles an hour on a regular basis, even though posted speed limit is 25 on 4th in the downtown area and then 35 on as it merges into the wider street. People drive extremely quickly. It's very, very dangerous. I encourage anyone who's on this call to come down and walk it. I'd love to show you and show you what it's like. I think that we really need to consider an alternative where a 90-degree turn lane is more likely at from 4th Street onto the westbound movement. And if that doesn't work, let's look at doing a bus only through a plaza type thing. I understand we want to make sure that the transit movements work, and I strongly encourage that. I've used the bus along this corridor many times. So let's look at options there. Additionally, this current design shows a westbound 4th to eastbound 2nd Street double turn lane, left turn lane here. I don't think that's necessary at all. The current intersection does not include that. And also just a block and a half east of here, there's accommodation for that movement. So you don't need it. I'd encourage you to look into that. So please do consider that. Finally, this is an important intersection to the city. It's the west entrance to downtown. It should be important. It should feel that way. The west end of downtown Santa Fe is awesome. It's growing. It's exciting. We have an opportunity here to make a really great place and showcase our wonderful city. So let's do it. And I'd also, encourage the city and this committee to consider a public outreach meeting that's specifically focused on this project. I understand that some of that's can be challenging, but it may be necessary or outside of just the BPAC to solicit feedback. I understand that sometimes too much feedback can slow something down. And I know that this is something that could really be moved forward quickly to the right solution. And I'm encouraged by the project schedule. Let's try to keep at it, but let's really keep the dialogue open so we can get the best solution. The safest solution here is the most important. I've walked all directions on this with my 9-month-old son, and it is very dangerous. And I encourage us to all find the safest solution here. Our priority should be Vision Zero at this intersection and everywhere in Santa Fe. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Dave. I think we have one more, Rafat.
I think that's Lori, and I think she talked already, but I'll open it just in case.
Thank you. I did not speak about this, but I do have a couple of questions. You've got to the left of the green lines, you have numbers 12 to 12, something I can't read and something else I can't read, and then 12 again. Is that the number of feet, the width of the lanes?
That is correct.
And what is the current width of the lanes?
It's very close to that. Typically a 12-foot lane is the standard, the definitely recommended width that very comfortable with. A 12-foot lane, And that's where most of our lanes in town are 12. They can go down to 11, 10, and sometimes even below 10. But on a major arterial like this, we like to keep the 12-foot lane.
Right, because I've noticed that where it says Second Street, you've got 4 lanes, 2 in each direction that are 11 feet.
11 feet is still a generous lane width. You know,
I don't think it's generous to a fire truck, but it could be generous to something else. Okay. My other two other questions. Are you reducing lanes over there from what it currently is? It looks like where you've got 3 lanes at one point, and then after the path, it becomes 2 lanes.
Joanna,
Going on Second Street, sorry.
So,
Joanna,
yeah, I can go. No, we're not reducing travel lanes. We are removing a left turn pocket in this current configuration and some of the turning movements to like into Marquard and out of Marquard. So that's part of the traffic study that Joanna's consultants are looking into. But no, I mean, Second Street has 2 lanes in each direction now, and we're keeping 2 lanes in each direction now.
Wait, what do you mean by now? You mean by currently now, or before you started doing all this work?
Currently now.
Okay,
They
so
don't go-
before you started doing all this work, though, there were 3 lanes.
No, there are 3 lanes. Once you get to the point where Second and Third Street split, then it's 3 lanes in each direction on
Got it,
Second and
okay.
Third. But here it's only 2 lanes. And also the 11-foot lanes just that are shown here is actually what this entire section of Second Street is with the new bike path. So this is going to be consistent through this whole area.
Right, and what were the size of those lanes prior to the bike path?
Well, one of them was probably, I think it was around 11 feet, but one of the problems with cars driving quickly is when lanes are too big, they tend to drive faster than what what the speed limit is. And so, reducing travel lanes actually helps keep people to drive the appropriate speed limit.
Okay.
So 11 feet lanes is very common. You could drive down Sir Francis Drake. All of those are 11 feet lanes, and that's even a busier east-west corridor than Second and Third Street.
I understand, but so they've always been 11 feet, or now they're becoming 11 feet?
They will be 11 feet, but we have 11-foot lanes in other places in the city. But yeah, the
You're not-
Third Street project is making.
You're
11
going around my question. I
No,
just want to know what it was.
The Third Street project is making 11-foot lanes. I think that actually on the west side of this intersection, those lanes are close to 11 or 12 feet now. But on Second Street, we are turning them into 11-foot lanes.
And what were they 2 years ago? Let's ask that way.
We're making them 11-foot lanes.
I'm not asking you that. I'm asking what they currently were.
Lori, I have to move on, so.
All right, so my next
would
question is
sug-
about okay, fine. I thought that was an easy question. The parking spaces that you back into, are people driving down 4th Street and then people are supposed to back into a parking space? Is that how that's working? Under where it says in the top left, 9 back in parking spaces.
That's currently what the concept shows, but again, we're still very high level and we're still looking at potential alternatives to what we're presenting today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Seeing no more public comment, let's move on to the next item. Item number 6 is Street Smart Program. Rafat, you want to introduce the presenter?
Yes, I just want to quickly share the agenda, and the Street Smart Program is a presentation by David Parisi. And I will stop sharing so David can share his screen.
I just have do we need to accept the informational item, or there was a recommended action on the agenda or not? I just am bringing it up because I saw it on the agenda.
I think it was just an informational item. There was no need to accept it. It was just information. All right, David, you are on mute. As soon as you figure out how to share, we're looking forward to the Street Smart Program.
Thank you, Rafat. Good evening, PBAC members. I'm David Parisi with Parisi Transportation Consulting. And I'm going to put a presentation up and try to get through it pretty quickly. So there we go. Can everyone see the Street
Yeah.
Smart slide, introduction slide?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. All right, a little bit about the program. It's a traffic safety program that has been run, actually administered by the Transportation Authority, Marin, for a number of years. And the intent of the program is really Vision Zero-ish. The intent is to educate drivers, pedestrians, cyclists, and others about safety issues and really try to change behavior in a positive direction. Focus is making Marin Street safer, friendlier, and to reduce the number of collisions and injuries as well. You probably remember banners that look like this that were up a few years ago, and for over a 12-year period. They would go up in the fall or the spring and be up for about 6 weeks or so and then come down. There was previously there was a program that used these banners and other information, and it was really focused on 5 bad behaviors. And I say bad, quote unquote, because these were behaviors that were discussed years ago with the different police departments as things that were unique to Marin. And they included speeding, people running through stop signs and red lights, distracted driving, folks not complying to pedestrians at crosswalks, and also bicyclists violation and safety. And at that point in time, we didn't know enough about the collisions and where they were, why they were occurring, and exactly where, but we worked with the police departments and all the jurisdictions to put up about 100 banners throughout the county and try to influence behavior at that point in time. Well, our banners are now pretty worn out, and I think people are overused to them. They're kind of dated, and but probably even more importantly, we have new data on where collisions have been occurring throughout the county, location by location, type by type, injury by injury. It's amazing what we've been able to do with data. City of San Rafael has been a huge participant in some of the safety analysis and programs that we've been running to really understand what's going on. So we wanted to update, or TAM did update the program to help spread the word and be even more effective than it previously was. So the program is really data driven, and we've mapped out all the collisions on every collector and arterial roadway throughout the county. We're focusing on new targeted messaging and updated branding, which I'm going to show you momentarily. And then not just signs and banners, but overall, we're going to be using other media platforms and doing more social media outreach as well. A little bit more background. We've taken a look at 5 years of collision history throughout Marin from January 1st, 2016 to December 31st, 2020. Believe it or not, there's over 14,000 collisions that were reported. These are just the ones that were reported. And you can see from these pie charts, the one to the left, 4% of collisions resulted in a severe injury or a fatality, although 96% were not. But look on the right, we see that vulnerable modes were involved in about 8% of the collisions. And of course, we know that means that most of those vulnerable modes are involved in a higher percentage of severe or fatal injuries. And that's what's shown here. So during that same period of time, we had 433 reported pedestrian collisions, 3% of the total, but 20% were severe fatal injuries. Over 700 reported bike collisions, again, 5% of the total, and also a disproportionate amount of injuries with those types of users. This is just a snapshot. If you want more information, by the way, there was a report that all the jurisdictions, including San Rafael and Rafat in a big way, participated in, and it was called a Systemic Safety Analysis Report that was done a couple years ago, and it mapped out the collisions by every city and town and unincorporated county, and provided a number of criteria and data that is, to me, very interesting and helps us to understand where to focus our messaging. Countywide, though, what we see is that these are the top primary collision factors. You can see unsafe speed is number one of all crashes. improper turning. And this could be turning left or right through an intersection, maybe when the light was red, or where a pedestrian is crossing the intersection or a bicycle on the other side. Very high in Marin, about 20% of collision factors were associated with improper turning. Driving or cycling under the influence is about 8% of all crashes, but a higher percentage of severe injuries. We're not targeting this behavior as part of Street Smarts because it is a prevalent thing that's countywide, and there's other programs that will be doing that, but we wanted to bring this one to your attention. And then pedestrian right-of-way violations, where pedestrians themselves have been at fault. There's some other important trends that we are going to be focused on as part of the Street Smarts program. These include distracted driving and the bicyclists themselves being at fault, but back to distracted driving. Statistically, we know that about over half the California drivers surveyed have been hit or nearly hit by a driver who has been talking on or texting on a cell phone. What we don't know is how many crashes have occurred because of distracted driving, because nobody ever tells the police officer, well, I was distracted when I caused that collision. But we do know from surveys that it is a high percentage. And we know that bicyclists are at fault for a number of crashes, about 3% in Marin. And these are things that we want to focus on because we have a high percentage of cyclists, and that's great in Marin, but we also want to carry the message through to the cyclists themselves. So we're focusing on 6 target behaviors now with the new unveiling of the program based on this data that we've looked at. They include these items here: making safe turns, reducing the amount of distracted driving, walking safely, that is being aware of your surroundings and doing the right thing, speeding. We want drivers and cyclists to keep an eye out for pedestrians in the crosswalk. And for cyclists, we're being a little bit more vague. We're to say, hey, you're part of the, you're a user out here, just follow the rules of the road. So about a year ago, we convened a task force with just a wonderful group of people that represented the cities, towns, law enforcement, schools, and branding as well, and design, and talked with these folks over a series of meetings and presented the research we had done, the safety information, what brands work, what messages work, how to keep things simple and effective. And we were able to, as a team, come up with a whole new brand and messaging technique. So here you go. Here's what you're going to see. Across the top, these are the banners. These will be on light poles and other places that can accommodate them. They will be deployed in near locations where these type of behaviors need to be addressed. You can see there's 6 different banners here. They're each in a different color. They have a very brief message because we don't want these of themselves to cause distracted driving. And again, different colors, so for different purposes. The overall motto of the program is Eyes Up, Marin, so pay attention, keep your eyes up. We're also going to be providing different signs. There'll be yard signs that'll be available. Yard signs will be available both in English and in Spanish. These will be available for citizens to get and put in their yards. There's just going to be 2 types, which will be checking your speed and watching for pedestrians. And these will be available through the cities. This is a unique slide for tonight's presentation. Maybe a little bit difficult to see, but you can see here that we have identified dozens of locations throughout the city of San Rafael for the installation of these banners. And by the way, it's going to just be in a week and a half when the first deployment will be occurring. So around October 17th. So a week from Monday, they'll be started. You'll start to see them installed. They'll be up for about 6 to 8 weeks. But this is a map. We work very closely with not just San Rafael, but all the other 10 cities and towns and unincorporated county for a very comprehensive deployment, which will be advertised and really well, again, advertised to the groups. Not just banners, Marin Transit will be doing some bus backs. This is what they will look like. We'll be driving around, providing some additional advertising and some information to folks who are behind them. So here's some what we're calling the updated social media designs, and these are items that can be put on social media or in the newspaper or in our presentations. They include more information than we showed you on the yard signs and on the banners, because we don't want, again, a driver or somebody to be reading all that at the same time, but these are the facts. So for instance, we did some research and we know that for turns, for instance, over 200 people are injured or killed in Marin each year just from unsafe turns. That's pretty amazing. So you see, we have a message for each of these, and we're going to try to use that message to get people's attention. These will also be available in Spanish. On the left, you see some sample email signatures that we're making available to our partners. They won't be this big, but they'll be something you can keep right under your email signature. And we're starting to see folks use those right now from the various jurisdictions. We've had some requests for some additional information. I think Rafat, you were saying, hey, maybe it'd be kind of cool to have magnets in the back of your staff vehicles and maintenance vehicles and things like that. So that's all coming. These are things that there's a lot of possibilities. This is just the first rollout of the things we have. There's also just a general overall graphic that's shown to the right that will be available just as a identifier for the campaign. As I mentioned, the campaign is starting its initial rollout in mid-October, October 17th, Monday, October 17th, to be more specific, through November. We will not be up year round. The intent is to have this thing up and down like for 6 weeks or so to really grab attention, and then pull it back up again, perhaps in the spring. Once to twice a year is the intent. We're gonna offer to folks through the TAM website, social media packages that you can download, email signatures that you can use yourself and add to your emails, and then the lawn signs, which we just got delivered today on a pallet, 2 pallets. Those will be distributed to each of the cities and towns public works departments for distribution. More information available at the website streetsmartsmarin.org. And again, we're kind of at the infancy of a new program, and we're starting with the big stuff. More materials will be developed as we proceed. So that's it. Thank you. And I got Jen's name here because Jen from our firm has been leading the effort, and she wasn't able to attend tonight. So I hope I did half a good a job as she's been doing on this program.
David, thank you very, very much for this wonderful presentation. Great program. I think it's something that's needed, and hopefully it'll make a difference. Do any of the BPAC members have questions or comments? Anne?
Hello, David. Thank you. Great program. Really excited about it. I was just curious about what are the facts. There was a fact that over 50% of the pedestrian crashes happen in crosswalks. And I was curious why that is. That just the fault of drivers? Do you know? Is it a fault of pedestrians not looking when they're coming, or do you know why?
Yeah, I'm looking at the statement right now. More than half of pedestrians hit in vehicles in Marin were in a crosswalk.
That's pretty appalling.
Yeah. Do I know why? I don't know why. Let's make it small. Let's reduce the pedestrian
Division
crashes.
0. I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Kate?
Yeah, thank you, David. I appreciate the work that's been done into the campaign. Personally, I hope the city continues to pursue Vision Zero, because in terms of, I'm not sure, was this funded by this Safe Streets for All grant, or?
No, this is actually a program that's been in place for quite some time.
Okay.
It's funded by the Transportation Authority of Marin with the participation of all the cities and towns in the county. San Rafael is a huge partner in this.
Right.
And it's continued to be, again, paid for by the transportation sales tax dollars for Marin. Yeah.
I just think that I just hope that Vision Zero, this doesn't substitute for Vision Zero, because I do think that Vision Zero approach, where there's enforcement by police officers in terms of slowing down speeding, I think that street design at heavy collision areas needs to be reviewed, and that even one of the banners that showed bicyclists might be at fault, it showed the bicyclist in the right-hand lane and a car turning into the bike lane, and it wasn't clear to me how the bike was at fault there. And so I think that I as an advocate for Vision Zero, I really want to see things that are proven effective in improving safety. And I think the public education part is important, and the facts are important. And so I appreciate the effort, but I don't want San Rafael to not pursue Vision Zero, thinking that, you know, these kinds of programs that are funded by TAM are a substitute, because I don't think they are.
Yeah, thank you very much. Just real quick, it is, like you mentioned, this is super data driven. You know, we've looked at all the crashes, including throughout San Rafael. But this is not, I mean, Vision Zero is so much more. This is a educational, one of many educational components of a Vision Zero type of program. So we're aware of that. City's aware of that, you know, and I mean, I'm going to give a plug to the city right now. I mean, the city has participated heavily on the systemic safety analysis work that's been underway. Big advocate of Vision Zero type of programs. And Rafat, I don't want to speak for you, but I know you could preach to me about it, you know, just your belief in the overall comprehensiveness of a program.
With the permission of the chair, I'd like to add a few perspectives from city staff point of view. Number one, I love the fact that we have tools that we can actually use on a day-to-day basis, where the need is articulated and the concerns are heightened. You know, there's nothing better than let's reinforce those messages of safety around schools, and the lawns across the street from schools, for all of us to remember. That is a very important component that I feel that it's gonna really make a difference. The other thing that I would like to stress is the email banners. You know, it takes a village. It takes all of us to band together to deliver this message. We all complain about it in one way or another. I've been a traffic engineer for 35 years, and I remember, and I've seen, you know, where the community that complains about the crashes is the community that are involved in those crashes, and we need to you know, reinforce that message, especially with the social media right now, with the email banners, with, you know, we're all in our phones all days. This is a media that I don't think we have fully taken advantage of, and the message of traffic safety needs to be heightened and focused and branded, like the Cancer Awareness Society or the ADA awareness, or you know that these things, you recognize them, even if you don't read the message on a bus. If you see a bus 2 blocks away and you recognize the pink color, you know that it has something to do with that campaign. So branding those messages, I think we're in Marin County, it's a very unique program, and we all need to take advantage of it and take it seriously. So internal to the city, on October 17th, when this program is launched, we plan to have you know, to have it used in a big way on all of our emails. You know, the police personnel, the fire personnel, the public works, the parks and recs. So if we can promote the public safety, it is an educational element that's been missing, and I'm glad that it's reinforced through this program. It is definitely, you know, responding to committee member Powers. It is not Vision Zero. It is an inching at Vision Zero, but you know, we have to start working on it on all dimensions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafat. David, I had a question for you. are there goals as part of this program? So for example, you've listed, gave us some statistics about injuries and fatalities and accidents. Are there goals that you want this program to result in a reduction of 5% or 10% of accidents in each of those categories? And then secondly, how are you going to assess how well this program's done?
That's a great question. I wish we had the funding, the resources to do what you're saying, and that is really understand how successful the program by itself is. But as Kate said in Rafat, this is one element of a overall kind of Vision Zero program. We're definitely going to be keeping an eye over the years on how the collisions change one way or the other. Also, we will be doing some surveys, not initially, probably maybe in the spring or next fall after this has been deployed for a little bit, to get people's impressions, different various stakeholders. But at this point in time, that is pretty much the extent of what we'll be looking at. That's all the resources that are there right now. That said, we do know from other programs that we did a lot of research on and used for this development of this program, that these programs can be successful. We do have some metrics that have been reported back to us, but behavior change does take time. So that's something that we can, when we do an evaluation, kind of a light evaluation in the next year or two, we'll be bringing all that to the forefront.
Okay, thank you. Rafat, do we have any public comment?
I saw Warren Wells' hand raised earlier, but it's no longer up. So I don't see any comments from the attendees.
Okay, well, let's, again, David, thank you very much for your presentation. Good luck with the program. It's a very exciting program. So let's move on to the next item, which is recent transportation projects grant applications.
All right, and that is my item, and I would working on my presentation till just minutes before the meeting. So thank you for this opportunity to share this information with you. Very exciting. Grant funding applications in 2022 and transportation improvements and planning applications. I'd like to briefly go over what we've done this year, why we've done it, and hopefully keep the presentation and discussion level to not the nitty-gritty of the details of the applications, because all of these applications will come back for review by the VPAC eventually. So I'm just going to have a quick presentation about the introduction, how we select projects, and the timeline for those projects. So as an introduction, you know, the reauthorization of the Federal Transportation Act for the next 5 years, it's a tremendous asset in the working. You know, this is the first year, actually the first 6 months of a 5-year program that is $1.2 trillion on the federal level. A lot of that goes to transit and rail, so let's not get too ambitious with the trillions. But once it trickles down, you know, we have opportunities in the next 5 years to bring much needed infrastructure improvements to local agencies. As I mentioned earlier, the funds are still programmed, and the year so far looks very promising. Before I get into the list of projects that we submitted for, I want to talk a little bit about the overall process, and that is the project selection. The project selection internally depends on many things. To begin with, we're usually not giving that much time to you know, from the time to call for projects to developing a project. Usually it goes from about 4 to 6 weeks. And during those 4 weeks, the city staff is challenged with needing to understand what these funds could be applied for and what is the most appropriate project. Will it meet the, is a project ready? Is a project in the CIP? Will it compete? Because this money is highly competitive, even though, you know, the money is available and it's enough, there's abundance of money. A lot of those funds trickle down to a very focused area like disadvantaged communities, or you know, a specific safety issue that has to be there in order to get those funds. So the appropriateness of funds to the improvement is a big deal. Project readiness, identifying the project from scope. Caltrans have been using cost to benefit ratios for a long time. Those cost to benefit ratios have been getting more and more complicated with time. And there's also, you know, in that short period of time, we have to look for the right scope of the project, right amount of the money, and look for local match that could be applied and available in the current CIP to be able to apply for it. So a lot of times we use consultants, and David Parisi and AMG have been very instrumental, and they would jump with a very short period of time to and be very creative writers in applying for those grants, and that's much appreciated. You know, public outreach, there's a varying level of public outreach. Some funding source requires that this project is in the general plan, or this project has been vetted. Some project funding requires that the project is fully vetted. That means there's a public outreach has been done and a city resolution supporting the project from the get-go. And this is very hard to prepare for, not knowing what's coming down the stream. Consistency with all plans, in the general plan, the CIP, the bicycle master plan, pedestrian master plan. And at the same time, we have to look at constructability, and that means the ability to execute the project within the funding time limits. A lot of those funding opportunities say that you have to, you know, they vary. Sometimes they say you have to have, you know, the preliminary project concept report is ready, and that's very hard to do on a city level as well. So I just wanted to show you that, you know, we're not always at full luxury of saying this project or that project. It is the funding source. Starting with the actual applications that we applied this year, there is starting with the funding type. The HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program, is a federal program by the FHWA. It's a federal program, and there is no limit to the number of the projects that you can apply, an agency can apply, which is advantageous. And then they have a different level of application too, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But Frida's Parkway is still Presidio with the US Route 101 off-ramp. We've been contemplating a roundabout for a long time, and we applied for the concept that we have an unusually high crash rate at this intersection, and we've ran some concepts over the years, and we applied for an HSIP project. Lincoln Avenue has been on the CIP list, for the Capital Improvement Program list, for a number of years. It's been short of funding, so you can see that, you know, we asked for about $1.8 million to complete the projects, do the ADA improvements, do the flashing beacons on and rapid rectangular flashing beacons on many of the crosswalks along Lincoln, redoing some of the sidewalks and redoing the streets is the scope of the project. In this HSIP category, there is a criteria called set-aside funds. The set-aside funds are limited. It's only $250,000, but it's not subject to the benefit to cost ratio. In past experience applying for HSIP, we needed to keep a certain like benefit to cost ratio benefit of about 11. So that's why the scope of the Lincoln Avenue has been adjusted to meet that criteria. But this set aside funds, we would get the funds anyway. If they like the project, they'll give us the funds without, which is a small token actually, but it is, we applied for that as well without the BC. Second Street improvements, we've been, similar to what's happening on 3rd Street. We a much smaller scale because again of the benefit to cost ratio requirement for HSIP. Each improvement factor is weighted with points, and we only applied for $3.2 million for 2nd Street improvement, which is a smaller version of what the project that is envisioned in the CIP. The second funding source is Adaptive Transportation Program, and we chose the Canal Bridge Project Study as a good application for that. This $1.6 million will be used towards public outreach, study of alignments, study of long-term maintenance, the viability of the program, of such a program, and that is a pedestrian and bicycle bridge only. It's not a vehicular bridge that is envisioned, and this project has been in the general plan for a number of years. The One Bay Area grant, OVAG, and we are in the 3rd cycle. About 3 cycles ago, there were multiple funds that are available on the MTC level. MTC is the regional MTA, Metropolitan Transportation Agency, and they took a bunch of iconic programs like Safe Route to School, Safe Route to Transit, and combined it into one Bay Area grant and created one application for it. There on the OVAG, there is the planning projects, and there are the construction projects. As you can see, because OVAG has a higher priority for disadvantaged area, so the canal improvements for bicycle, pedestrian, calming and lighting, all of the elements that were identified in the canal transportation access plan were included in that grant application for a total of a little over $5 million. The PDA areas for the canal and Northgate, those are planning applications. The PDA is a designation that city councils and across the Bay Area can designate an area as a priority development area. And once you receive that designation, you become eligible for this kind of funding. It's the planning, it's the further planning. So for the canal area, the PDA would mean there are 3 things that will be identified in a specific plan that will, kind of focus the lens on what the general plan says. It is a specific plan, and it will discuss sea level rise. It will discuss circulation needs in the future based on a proposed land use. So the land use will be further defined. It'll be more conducive for development. And that is basically planning work that is done to encourage the proper growth of that area. And we applied for 2 applications for PDA in the canal and Northgate. The second and fourth intersection, you received the presentation of specifics. It's that grant is for projects that are ready to go in a certain area, and we chose the second and fourth intersection to go with that. And last but not least is the Safe Street and Roads for All, SS4A. And that is the full Second Street improvements. The Second Street improvement earlier was $3.2 million. In this grant application, in SS4A, agencies are allowed 1 project, so they have to put their best projects forward and go for the funds. And we felt that the Second Street improvements, because of the safety element on Second Street and the multimodal elements that are in it, we felt it's more appropriate for this grant. So as you can tell from my presentation, we're very proud that we were able to get that many applications done in 1 year. I mean, it was a dizzying, challenging project. The consultants came through and helped us. Number of city staff has to hustle to meet the deadlines, and all of those applications are done. I don't have a specific timeline for each category. Most of the applications we will hear back, I would say between December and January of next year. But if we receive even a portion of the $27 million almost grant applications, we are going to be very busy, and we're going to be doing a lot for all modes of travel in San Rafael. With that, thank you, and I'll turn it back to the chair. Be happy to answer any questions.
Do any of the BPAC members have questions or comments? If not, I'm sorry, Kate.
Rafat, that was very thorough, and I really appreciate the work you did and putting that together and giving us your time and explaining the different grants that are available and what kinds of projects are those grants are applicable for, and the city's process. I thought that was really a valuable effort on your behalf. Thanks very much.
Seeing no other BPAC member comments, let's go to public comment.
I have Warren.
Hi, Warren Wells with the Marin County Bicycle Coalition. I just wanted to second Kate's comments there. It's really great to have this. This is like an educational experience, I think, for members of BPAC and members of the public here, and actually some of the history on the OBAG grant was new for me. So I really appreciate that insight into explaining what these grant programs are and how much work the city has done applying for them. Especially excited about the ATP grant for the Canal Bridge. One question about the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant that had said the Second Street project. Is that referring to the Second Street portions of the Third Street rehabilitation project, or is that I wasn't sure what project that was referring to, the $7 point something million for the SS4A grant? Thank you.
I'll be happy to answer the question about Second Street. It is from A to E. The limit of the project is from A to E, and some of the project elements, as I mentioned earlier, will be brought back to BPAC as to what improvements are being made. But on Third Street, for example, right now we're raising the intersections. We're making, we don't have intersections like this in San Rafael right now. It's going to be a new type intersection where actually the pedestrian is at level, at the level of the intersection. There are no ramps going down or up into the street. So the travel of the pedestrian is straight, flat, meaning, we physically take the intersection from the inside of the intersection pavement and raise it to the sidewalk, making it flat with the sidewalk. That is an element in the Second Street. Also, what we're doing on Third Street, we're updating all of the signal indicators. We find that the mast arms, for example, on Second Street are substandard, and for 3 lanes, we need an indicator signal head basically to be more visible. As we have a truck, the truck and big vehicle mixed with the small vehicles, sometimes the visibility of the signal head is briefly interrupted on the arterial, and that causes some friction. So that's what I meant by saying similar improvements to the Third Street corridor.
You have another comment?
And Matthew Hartzell, and Matt, did I give you permission to speak? Yeah. We can hear you, Matt, if you start talking.
Last chance, Matt. Okay, are there any other public comments? If not, I'll suggest we move on.
If I may extend a big thank you for WTB TAM, for Matt Hartzell and Patrick Seidlers. They were very instrumental in providing many letters of recommendations for those applications as well, and certain committee members from the BPAC supporting some of those applications. Thanks to all who participated.
Thank you, Rafat. Item number 8 is housekeeping. Rafat, do you want to comment on this?
Yes, and if you allow me just 1 minute to try to look for the agenda. Okay, so we have 3 members that did a wonderful 8 years of service to this committee over the years, and that Danielle Ellison, Chairman Haggerty, and Kate Powers. Just want to thank you. This would be the last meeting for us. That's almost sad. So it just thank you for your service. I'll be in touch with you. There'll be a proclamation done at the City Council, and for all 3 of you. An 8-year is a major commitment. I'm sure you've seen a lot, and I've only been around for the last 3.5 or 4 years. So I've only seen 50% of your contributions, and your contributions have been significant. And, on behalf of city staff, I really commend the BPAC efforts. If you look at the improvements to the bicycle and pedestrian environment in San Rafael. Even in the last 5 years, you'll see the bridge, the Francisco Boulevard East, the bike rail intersection with 2nd Street. You're going to see there's more green paint that was applied in the last 4 years than any in the last 40 years in San Rafael, and it must have been an exciting times for you. So maybe this is a chance if you want to have something to share with us about your experience, encouraging others to step forward and have this level of dedication to public service that is amazing.
Kate, would you like to say something?
Yes, I would. I actually started in 2010. I've been doing this for 12 years because I started before there were term limits for BPAC. This has been one of my favorite things to do, and I really appreciate working with my fellow BPAC members. And I've, appreciated working with you, Kevin, and I look forward to continuing on the TAM COC. And Phil and Anne, I'm wishing you the best of luck. And I just have a couple of thoughts. The other people that have been really important to me in this time that I've spent have been the advocates. I have learned so very much from WTB, TAM, from MCBC, and from, in particular, also from Jean Severinghouse. My experience on this committee has been enriched. And I also really learned a lot from the other public attendees at the meetings, David Rhodes and Lori and Sunny. And I think that boots on the ground are so important, and that public participation is really, really important in these kinds of efforts. And I have 3 things that I wanted to leave you with. One is the master plan is a really important document. I really hope you put a lot of time and effort into this and raise it up. Pay attention to the strategies that are in the back of the document. Look at where we are in accomplishing the goals and objectives that were laid out in the last update of the document. And then I think also look at the projects and the prioritization of the projects in that plan are really important as well. Secondly, I encourage Anne and Phil and Barry, take initiative. As a committee, it's not just sitting back and listening. You're a representative of the public, and this is your opportunity to bring forward things that are important from a public perspective. So I encourage you to take initiative. And last, I think it's unfortunate that the city council decided to reduce the size of the committee from 7 to 5. I think at meetings like this, we realize how important it is to have a quorum that really generates some valuable comments on projects that are being brought forward. But I think that it makes it even more important that public participation continues. So I want to applaud those who regularly attend these meetings and appreciate your support. That's it.
Wow, what more can I say? I think you've said it all, Kate, and I fully agree with everything you've said. I very much appreciated serving on this board with the present members as well as members of the past. I think this is one of the few opportunities that members of the public can actually comment on these traffic-related, bicycle and pedestrian-related projects before they go to council for approval. And it's very important. And I don't, whether BPAC is the vehicle that will be used in the future to continue that, or whether there'll be another structure. But whatever the city decides to do, it's really important that there be this process in which the public can participate and comment on these important city projects. My last comment is, Kate's said this all night. I would highly encourage the BPAC and city staff, city politicians to support a Vision Zero program. I think it's absolutely essential for the city. And I would encourage the city to take the initiative and not just wait for TAM to come up with a program and then we just fall in line. So I would encourage the city to do that. With that, I want to thank my fellow members and also those members of the public that attend the meetings on a regular basis and provide us with some important insight. Thank you very much.
And thank you to the staff who support the BPAC.
Absolutely.
You are
Absolutely.
our stars.
Thank you.
So we have one last item, and that's possible future agenda items.
Oh, wait, we're not done. We get public comment.
Okay.
I get to thank both of you and DJ for being so welcoming on the committee and being great examples for me and inspirations for me in the service that you do to the city. And now in our future meetings, when you're members of the public, I hope I see your name and still can hear from you. And eventually when we're meeting in person, we'll do that some more too. So hope to see you in person. But thank you very much for your service to both of you and to DJ, who's not here.
And I just want to second what Phil said. I also want to say it's very humbling to see the knowledge, Kevin and Kate, that you have and you bring to the committee. And that's why I would love to see you as an advocate, because I don't think we could continue as a BPAC without your knowledge and your knowledge base. So please come to the meetings and give us all the advice that you have given us before. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. So the last item is possible future agenda items. Do any members have comments? If not, I will suggest that obviously one of the most important things is the development of a new bike and pedestrian plan. And I'd like to see the BPAC as soon as possible, have a discussion of the approach and schedule for accomplishing that. I can suggest that since I'm not going to be here. Philip?
I have one item too. I'm a little bit surprised we didn't hear public comments about this also. But I have concern, and I've spoken to Rafat about this, so he knows, about Fifth Avenue as we go down towards Sun Valley. Safe route to school. Sun Valley is an elementary school at the end of Sun Valley. It's difficult to access in there. And unfortunately, a student was hit 2 weeks ago, spent the day in the hospital, but recovered and is okay. Coming on the back of the student who was hit right there outside of Andy's Market after school the year before. I think the reason we didn't have public comment, I have a daughter who's in kindergarten, just started kindergarten at Sun Valley. They had a PTO meeting tonight, and after the PTO meeting was a parent safety committee. So I know there are lots of engaged parents who were at this meeting, which was concurrent with ours at 7:15. And so I think we'll be hearing a lot more about that in the future, about sort of safety changes that can be made outside of that school. And there's some things upcoming before, there's a walk audit, and some people are going to go out there with city staff. But that'll likely be something on some future agenda item. And it's good to be made aware of, and unfortunate that it's a place where children are repeatedly getting injured there.
Good suggestion. And with that, right at 8 o'clock, right on the dot, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you to your last meeting.
Kevin,
Yeah.
Kate,
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye, Rafat. Thank you,
Bye.
Rafat.
Bye.
See you later.
Thank you, Rafat. Thank you, April.
Take care.